St. Lucia isn't joining us this morning, and Dominica said she would try, but given the time change, she had something else. But the three persons who did commit are here, which are
Okay,
Jermaine, Yolanda, and Ronalds. So thank you.
fantastic. So let's get started. Okay, so hi everybody. I'm gonna officially get us started on our call. It's great seeing everybody again. It feels like it's been a really long time, even though I think it hasn't been that long. Still feels like a really long time. Um, so welcome for being with us. I just want to quickly go over what our agenda is for today, and then I'm gonna pass it on to an official welcome from Hannah and then get started with our agenda. But what we're going to do today is Giselle and Giselle are going to present us, and Nicole are going to present to us the VCTT model as a case study and the transformation that they have gone through in the last year, what's working, what isn't, how can we all learn from that, given what is going on today. After that, we are going to go into a group discussion where we're going to have more of a personal discussion of what this last 7 months have been for us, and then what is it that we need now, how are we moving forward. And last, we're going to end our call today with talking about upcoming learning opportunities and the world calls, things that are coming up, and where you can, where you can be a part and in what way. So we've got a lot to get through in a little bit of time. And so I'm going to quickly pass it on to Hannah to give us an official welcome and say hi to us all.
Hi, everyone. How are you all doing today?
Hey.
I'll take the silence as really good.
Oh, very well, Hannah.
Wonderful. Good morning. It's so great to see you guys and your smiling, beautiful faces. We always look forward to these regional meetings and just taking time to connect with each other and hear about what everyone's doing. And Kainan and I and the GDD team are looking forward to having this more intimate conversation today with you guys. We're all very excited to have a chance to speak, like I said, more intimately on, shaping the region and how things have shifted in the last so many months and how we can move forward together and learn. So thank you guys for being here with us today on a Sunday and for all the effort that you're doing in your own countries, to do good and keep fighting this pandemic that, we're all facing. So we're really just wishing you guys all well, lots of love. We're thinking about you and just really proud of what's coming out of the region. It's been really impressive. Loving the WhatsApp group as well and hearing from you guys. So thank you from all of us. And let's get this started.
Thank you, Hannah. And before I move it over to the VCTT team, and you guys need to tell me who I should pin what video, I'm going to remind you that we have the chat feature. And so if you have questions throughout the presentation, that's a good place to put them, kind of as we're going along, and we can all look, and that way you guys can respond as opposed to just waiting till the end. So who wants to be pinned?
Giselle.
Oh, okay. So I think I'll be starting it off, and then my colleagues will follow. I understand I was given a very strict 5 minutes time, so I have my timer next to me. But just to begin, before I formally start on the presentation, I definitely wanted to take the opportunity to really, really salute and thank the entire Good Deeds Day family and team on behalf of our entire team of volunteers at the Volunteer Center of Trinidad and Tobago for what has been a truly, truly valuable and really, really tremendous partnership and relationship that we've been building over the past couple of years. On this call today, of course, we have our fearless regional leader, Giselle Grandison, who's been doing such an amazing job as well as our local director. So Nicole is the local version of Giselle. Nicole Kasoon, who is director of our volunteer and partner impact team. And of course, a special mention to our regional partners who have agreed and committed to journeying with us on this big mission of really building capacity around volunteerism for the Caribbean region, because we all recognize its importance. And I think as organizations, we all go through our challenges, we all have our peak periods, but at the end of the day, what stands is that commitment to the mission and the mission of volunteerism, recognizing its importance, especially in this period. So much love, much thanks to everyone. And we really, really look forward. We are happy to have the opportunity to present our story. And as we go on, we look forward to hearing from our partners as well and learning more about their story. All right, so yeah. Oh, next slide. All right, good. So I know when we were chatting, the purpose of this session, again, it's really about trying to understand the journey of VCTT and telling our truth. So our commitment this morning is to really just share it as it is. VCTT was launched in 2012. And when we launched, it was very much a grassroots organization. It was a couple of volunteers. We recognized there was a real gap in terms of NGOs and community-based organizations needing people, needing skilled hands to support them, and there was no hub or space to facilitate those connections. We were aware of other volunteer matching models that were taking place in other countries and spaces, and we saw that there was definitely a need for that in Trinidad and Tobago. So we launched in 2012, and when we launched in 2012, it was really about engendering in the culture of Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean region a deepened spirit of active citizenship, social responsibility, and volunteerism. And I think what was interesting in terms of that mission that we set out, it wasn't about what was taking place only in Trinidad and Tobago, but we recognized there was a wider Caribbean community that also affected directly and indirectly our local context that needed to be engaged. With that set out, the vision that we set out to achieve as a volunteer in every home and the mission that we established was really about connecting people, fueling hope, and collaborating for change. Now, what I do want to say at this point is, in terms of how we arrived at this mission and vision, it was actually through a real trial and error process. So when we started off, we set up a website, right, which became a focal point for matching skilled volunteers to NGOs and community-based organizations. And as we continued to work and navigate that process, we also began to encounter challenges. So we were supporting any NGO, any community-based organization who supported a variety of themes, whether it would have been issues around the environment, issues around domestic violence, issues around politics or governance. We were supporting all of it. Some of the discussions we began to have at about year 3 or 4 was around the level of impact VCTT was actually having due to these connections and supporting this very, very, very broad base. I think at that point, we were also having real discussions about monitoring and evaluating the type of impact we were having, and we were encountering challenges there as well in terms of how do we really begin to qualify what our footprint of change looks like. Next slide. At that point, of course, this is, I think this was actually it was in 2015, the Sustainable Development Goals were implemented, and the SDGs became very, very attractive for us because what they provided was a framework, a very clear framework where you have 17 goals, 17 high priority development goals. And we decided to actually use this as a framework to pivot and have meaningful discussions about the type of connections that VCTT would want to make in terms of mobilizing volunteers to different causes, and also qualifying again, the type of impact we would be having. So what we did at this point was we engaged a consultant, her name was Karen Johnstone, who took us through a really, really interesting process where basically in assessing where we were at that point, was we recognized that as an organization, we were boiling the ocean. That was actually the term that Karen used with us because we were doing so many things, but we were not necessarily doing anything specifically well. And again, we were having that challenge with monitoring and evaluating the type of impact we were having. Next slide. So what we did was we had a real discussion in terms of the high priority development areas that Trinidad and Tobago was focusing on. What were our high priority development needs as a country? We came up with these 5 areas that became particularly interesting around issues around education, sustainable communities, of course, climate action, no poverty, decent work, and economic growth. So that facilitator took our entire team through a strategic planning process where we interrogated these goals. We also distill these goals because if you go through each of these SDGs, I mean, they have specific indicators and it's very complex, but also precise in terms of what the indicators are focusing on. And what we did was we distilled it and we came up with goals, relevant goals to our volunteer work that would support the overall sustainable development goals. We also came up with different areas of focus, right? So if we look at quality education, we distilled the mandate to obtaining a quality education is the foundation to improving people's lives and sustainable development. We came up with 2 specific goals and then a variety of different areas of focus. These different focus areas and this distilling process, if you will, actually highly affected the key interventions that you would see VCTT focusing on today. So for example, under quality education, you see areas of focus including mentoring, motivating and inspiring outreach and awareness. Our Me to We e-mentorship program, again, fits very, very succinctly within this pillar. Next slide. So coming out of that strategic planning session, and we thought it valuable to actually share with you what our sort of 1-page outlook is for the organization. This is the strategic outlook we came up with, and our team actually came up with this in January of this year of 2020. Right, and of course we have the goal of a volunteer in every home, and their key priority areas that we have established for the sustainability of the organization, including leadership, impact, of course, revenue generation, because sustainability has to be a key area of focus. We have marketing and PR, technology, capacity building, and underpinning it all, very, very important, is governance. So in this area, we talk about a constitution, having clear audits so that all stakeholders, members of public can clearly see how we are engaging with any funds that we're getting from donors and so forth. And of course, administrative development. To the right of this 1-pager, you would see the key initiatives that actually feed into these priority pillars that all really support and help channel towards our goal. Now, what this did, and while we finalized this strategic 1-pager in January of this year, this was really a 2-year process with the consultant, because again, the organization was completely volunteer run. We had different initiatives going on. And what this has helped us to do is really clarify the type of work that VCTT takes on, the type of output we have, and it really just provides a very, very clear focus of the goals we are seeking and what we do. So many times, especially in this new normal that we're in, we get a host of requests, recommendations, and so forth. But to be very transparent with you, we do turn down quite a number of requests for partnerships and so forth, because if it doesn't align, it doesn't happen, right? So you can clearly see, even in terms of our impact priority area, there are key initiatives we have under that. Of course, that includes the mentorship intervention, our community garden intervention, which is taking place in a very, very high needs area in Trinidad and Tobago called East Port of Spain. There are lots of socioeconomic challenges with that area, and of course the regional platform. So it was really about getting fixed, getting very, very focused. And what that did as well was it fit in very nicely with the capacity of the organization, because we don't have a team of full-time staff just yet. Right now we're at this space where we have one part-time project manager and we're bringing on another part-time project manager. So managing capacity is always at the forefront of our decision-making process. Next slide. All right, just how am I doing on my time? Am I over my 5 minutes?
You are.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Please wrap up.
Okay, 10 seconds on this. Right, so in a nutshell, again, coming from grassroots organization to a space where we were boiling the ocean, so doing many things, challenges with M&E and qualifying our impacts. Then we went through our strategic planning session, got very focused. And this is essentially the VCTT model that we've landed on today. Through trial and error, through successes and through failures, we have failed along the way. Right, and of course on a local end, we have the local platform, and supporting that, we have our custom-built interventions, which marries as well with what is taking place regionally. So local very much marries regional, but of course there are specific contexts for each of them. And of course, the regional context is managed through our Caribbean Volunteer Exchange Network, which we all know our lovely Giselle chairs and does such a fantastic job of it as well. All right, just next slide. Perfect, yeah, so I'll hand over to our local director, Nicole, so she can give some further context in terms of our local intervention cycle. Nicole?
Hi again. So a great Sunday morning to everybody. And of course, thank you for allowing us to share everything that we go through with you. So I know we are time sensitive, so let me start quickly. So this, as with all, starts with a vision that Giselle tried to drive home. So everything starts with good intentions and a vision. VCTT team is always on the lookout for meaningful opportunities that align with the SDGs. And of course, as she said, we feel a lot of opportunities, but we do have to evaluate and of course, make sure that we can fulfill on the mandate to have an effect and impact, the desired effect and impact on the people that we are reaching out to. So the next step basically follows that we do an internal strategic assessment. And this comes about in terms of if and how VCTT can successfully perform the intervention with consideration to working with various partners, if this is part of it. It takes into account a review as well of our resources, which goes into financial and non-financial resources, our current engagements, and what is required to fill the gaps. We then sit down, and it takes time, of course, to gather all the relevant information and finally come up with a draft proposal. This proposal, of course, is very scrutinized and, of course, circulated to different persons to make sure that we don't miss anything. And once it is approved, it's submitted for all the partners involved for review and final approval. Coming out of that, we then establish a planning group or steering committee. And this will involve the appointment of course key roles as needed and the development of our volunteer resources needed for the intervention. We also then follow to find a project plan and schedule to develop for meeting activities, milestones, reporting methodology, monitoring and evaluation that will be needed throughout the course of the intervention. And then of course comes that key moment where you launch the intervention. This will roll out all the details of basically who, what, where, when, why, and how. We develop a scheduled curriculum and calendar that we will circulate to all our partners and well, of course, the persons who are involved. It contains all the critical information for targeted audiences to have purview and ease of use and of course for review. And then we have the orientation and training where sometimes it involves, of course, that first meeting as a collective group where we provide the support on volunteering 101 and dependent on the nature of the initiative, we provide the necessary training, introduction, and roll out the support that will be needed throughout the course of the intervention. Then comes a very key role, monitoring and evaluation. This again is targeted towards the expected goals, the criteria, whatever identifiable measures that are needed to assess the intervention. It will produce a reporting scheme that will be circulated to all stakeholders, and it assures that VCTT is accountable and immediate attention is paid to any issues that are encountered. It allows again VCTT for continuous level of evaluation, and as such, it feeds into continued improvement at every step of the intervention, and it feeds the final overall assessment that will help to form best practices, etc. And then we go on to intervention completion, which is a twofold process. Of course, we have the ceremonial completion for the participants. We will recognize our star performance, the dedication of the parties all involved. It allows us to drive home that message of paying it forward, and it helps VCTT to fulfill that mandate of encouraging and establishing a volunteer in every home. Our next steps then take part. A look at how the good work of our intervention can become sustainable and enriching to the participant's life. It can chart the way then for VCTT to grow in this regard. And if the intervention can then become a recurring mainstay with the option to further grow and extend its reach. And don't get us wrong, there are the ups and downs, and we go through the different processes and the nights and the long hours and the meetings. But at the end of the day, it is worth it, and it is something that has worked for us, and we are continuously improving on this cycle, trying to see where it is. Of course, we can always plug the gaps and develop better strategy to achieve our eventual goals. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, thank you very much. So I'm going to go in really quickly to our slide. So the next slide, the next 3 slides will be a wrap up essentially. So global impact. So when GI was started, we were trying to figure out where it is we needed to be and who we needed to be within a regional and international context. So essentially, this model speaks to the 4 levels that we are working within the regional and international concepts. First, starts at a national impact. We need to encourage national understanding at your local level, which then will encourage you to understand from a regional understanding to like discuss, to start to educate and create. Underscoring those opportunities, we're able to create the vision that CVX steered from, which is to educate, expose, and to engage persons. Then following that would have been the encouraging further personal action. So what we realize is once you start to understand at a national level, you become aware. Regionally, as a Caribbean region, you will start to become more aware of what's happening at your local and regional impact levels. And then that will come back to you at a personal action level. By doing that, it carries us to the 4th side where CVX was birthed in terms of where it is now to expand our volunteer borders, to be able to produce sharing across borders, etc. Next slide, please. When it is we were figuring out what CVX means, what our local impact means, which is what Nicole spoke to, what our regional impact and footprint means, we started to understand that it came under 4 key things: connectivity, collaboration, continuity, and impact. So for connectivity, we needed to understand, to be global, you first must be local. And then in thinking and being local, you become and act globally. So VCTT essentially has been on building this principle. Importantly, understanding our current climate. What are our gaps, our challenges? Who are our people? What is our resources? Once there was that internal strategic assessment that Nicole would have spoken to, that we copied essentially regionally at our local operations, we then had to understand what we were building, who we were, what is it that we do best, and then came into research and hear what our regional opportunities were. Then came collaboration. After we learned ourselves, we learned our partners, we understood, there was this American author, his name is Greg Mortensen, I think. He said, slow down and make building relationships as important as building projects. That in itself speaks to power. And that's what we believe in truly at a regional and a local level. Relationships are as important as every project we work on. So with that, we understood that building a global network regionally came at no easy feat. Many steps were taken inclusively of culture, values, norms, understanding the difference between countries, what exists, what our partners, understanding their needs, or understanding their wants. What's the difference between Curacao and Guyana, Suriname and Haiti? Do we share the same goal? Are there similarities and differences? What are our unique strengths and weaknesses? We started to understand who's been in this longer, who's been in this elites, what is our collective lesson that we're trying to learn, and who are we as Caribbean people? And in identifying these, began building the relationships, that connectivity, relationships that focus on outcomes but also focused on people and practice. Then after came continuity. With everything now, every sector's goal is on sustainability, and can it withstand the test of time? That's every sector's goal. We're always coming up with the question, within our global, regional, and local perspectives, are we relevant? Are we remaining relevant? Are we processing change well? I mean, 2020 was the evidence of change, and it can happen at any time. Who have we become? Did the choices we make, lead us here to success or failure? Is this what we are currently in now? Is this meeting a success or failure? What can we do to change if given the chance to repeat? We started to understand our process and really started to hone in and dig deep to it. We needed to also understand, is this success to our people? What does this mean, the here and now? Is this happening? What's missing? In declaring these, we've come and grown to understand our journey. Isn't really ours. The start may be ours, but at the end of it, our belief is that our people, our choices, and knowing what's best for us, the uniqueness of who we are and what we've accomplished. And of course, through decades, even though we're behind others, and I say that because Latin America has always been compared to the Caribbean, and they're so far ahead in so many great, great initiatives, so many great steps. But the Caribbean, again, is, and it's not a second child mentality, but the truth and the fact is, we're always not just there yet. So we strive in building a global impact in this region. And in doing that, it took a team. It took a team and it takes a team, but of builders, not talkers, but leaders. And in building it, this is who we become presently to this very day with these persons on this call and the many others. And the last thing is impact.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Go back. Go back. The last little piece in the center is impact. Are we measuring, and how are we measuring it? Is it this where we've landed? We've recently added to our board a monitoring and evaluation specialist, because we've realized the capacity that M&E needs to be in. Leading change and fighting everyday single wars and mini battles is this type of work that we do. I mean, it's simple. Building the steps to Mount Everest, or building the steps to Mount Meron in Israel, or Keturah Falls in Guyana, Ludat Cathedral in Dominica, those falls, even Mount Christophe in Mount Christophe Point in Curacao. I know Yolanda is going to hit me for that. She's like, you're pronouncing this wrong. Or even Haiti's going to hit me for this one too, but Massif de la Sella in Haiti, which is 8,777 feet high. The Pitons in St. Lucia, even El Cerro de la Ripo in Trinidad and Tobago. It's no easy fight, but every step that we built, to the Mount Everests, to the Mount Merons, to the the cathedral, is a fight that we're willing to take, and that's where we are judging our impact. So last slide, please. And this is where we've came to understand that the partnerships are very key. So VCCT, we started off as a Caribbean organization, and we've developed this Caribbean network, and we're leading this network. And partnerships became important because partnerships started out when we went to Mexico to the first IAVE conference we ever heard about. Went there and we met IAVE, we met Good Deeds Day. And to this day now, IAVE, we are part of the GNLV network. We are part of the Ideathon that they're having. We are now a mentee under the mentorship program that they have. They're helping to build our capacity, and we are a world partner with them. Because of when we went to IAVE, it fueled into the Germany aspect, meeting Gadize in Mexico, and now meeting them in Germany. I mean, at this level where we are today, where Gadize here presently, our world partner, building annual initiatives and building capacity. I mean, all of this would not been easy, and would have taken years of people telling us, no, you're not ready to go internationally. No, you're not ready to go regionally, but we're here. We had to. And that just says, to wrap this entire thing up, this is our local and international intervention process. And it's not easy, but persistence and consistency got us here. So I'll just wrap that up, close that off. And Giselle, if you just want to just close it and put a full stop, it's up to you. But this is where we are and this is who we are.
I think that was perfect to end. Full stop.
Wonderful. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I know that for me personally, it was very interesting to see the process that you went through and how thoughtful really it is to getting to where you are today. And I love that you say that, you know, relationships are just important as projects, because I think often we get so stuck into the project and trying to create that we forget fostering the relationships. And the reality is that if we don't have relationships, we don't go anywhere. Good ideas will stay good ideas on paper if we're not partnering and doing them together. So thank you for the presentation. And what I would like to move us on to now is to a group discussion. We're going to divide into 2 groups. And in these groups, we have a question that we are posing to you all that we want you to be thinking about. And this is it. Okay, we want you to tell within your group, share your personal experience of what that first week of the pandemic mode was like for you. So whenever COVID-19 reached your area and really reached it, and you saw that things were starting to change, what did that feel like for you? What do you most remember? What was most challenging, most surprising, etc.? Kind of give some thought to this question and share it within your group. So I'm going to ask Layla for her help in dividing us right now into groups. And see you all in 10 minutes.
You all received the invitation. Join the groups.
I think I was thrown out of my group.
You were.
No, I'm in another group.
You're back to the beginning.
We are all back now in the general room. Slowly people are joining back.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So is everyone back?
Nope.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yolanda's group.
58.
Yolanda's group was not cooperative.
So,
And you should take responsibility for them.
That's Yolanda.
Yeah. Yeah. You should definitely take responsibility for them, I feel.
now we're all back.
Okay.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So why don't we take just a minute from each group just to share a little bit about what came up in the group before we ask our other question. So Giselle, you want to start? Oh, well, Giselle with J, you want to start?
Sure. So the last group, the question was asked, and the theme of it essentially was trepidation. There was paranoia, there was stress, and of course the loss of loved ones and being far away from them and not being able to be present to just even physically make contact. All of that came under the scope that we all were in a place of disbelief for a certain bit of time where we were like, hey, this is not happening really. The government is not paying attention. Don't worry about it. And then it came to, wow, this is happening. We're in an unbelievable space. So the undertone of it was very stressful in the last group. Well, in the last group, the undertone of the feelings of the first week was stressful and a bit of challenging times and emotionally distressing.
Thank you. Giselle, how about your group?
Sure. I'm not Yolanda or Jermaine. Did
Oh,
either-
Yolanda, sure.
Yeah. Or Jermaine. Either one.
Or Jermaine.
First to the mic.
I think Giselle and their group really sums it up for our group.
Jermaine, can you lift your microphone?
Hearing me? Hearing now? Hearing now?
Yeah, better. Yep.
All right. Yes. I think Giselle in the first group basically hit the nail on the head. There was a bit of fear and panic and stress for the first week, and the disbelief that nah, this is gonna miss us, until each of us in our group realized that yeah, we were going to be part of it and we had to respond.
Yep. It was definitely somewhat of a movie, we were saying in our group, right? So we couldn't have imagined this in a movie if we tried, if we were writing a movie script. We most likely would have not. I'm going to move this over to Giselle to a question that we wanted to ask moving forward, which is this question. Oh.
Yeah. So this question is essentially where 7 months, 6 months, 5 months, depending on where you are and when you started to have your first case into the pandemic. And we wanted to understand the top 2 things or hear from you personally, well, it could be one thing given the time constraint. If you had something or someone in front of you, or even if you can ask yourself or ask someone, what is the thing that you need the most right now? Whether it's in the country you're in or in another country, wherever, what is the one thing, if you could have it right now, that you would need?
If I may just ask Leila, I think for the 2 groups, can Giz and Nick be in the separate ones?
Oh, we're not separating out to groups.
Oh,
we're
okay, cool.
Here in the full group. Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Not enough time.
Yeah. Awesome. So anybody want to start first?
What do you most need right now?
Vacation.
Vacation. Good one.
That's a brilliant answer, actually.
Yeah.
Very spot on.
Vacation in another country.
Yes.
Free from COVID.
Vacation not in my living room.
Yeah, I mean, if I may just extend on that, I mean, it sounds funny, but I mean, there really is so much depth around it because I mean, I was having conversations with a colleague around there's also an emotional exhaustion that we found is sort of dominating this period. Um, because of course, yes, we're virtual, and for many of us, we're home and whatnot, but they're not only mental implications, there are also implications you're seeing coming out from some preliminary studies in terms of the potential biological implications of the pandemic. And there's just so much uncertainty around it, which fuels anxiety, that that extra tiredness is a reality that I mean I've experienced personally, and some of my colleagues were sharing similar sentiments as well. So I want to support what Yolanda said as well. Yeah.
Okay. I would say for me, actually, Tova said it in the last meeting, in the last group, but for me, I would tell you it's really the fact that I haven't been able, and Giselle and I and Nicole were talking about this, that I can't hug somebody. Like, I can't come home and get a hug from someone that I care about or cares about me, and a meaningful hug. And that's the one thing I miss outside of jumping on a plane and going somewhere and being like, hey, I actually miss the embrace of humans and humanity in its full essence, and being able to just for a second have not a care in the world and be present. And that's truly what I miss from people that I care about or care about me.
Anybody else who wants to share?
I'm here thinking there's so many things I want to call, but like for me, but I think maybe time, as much as with the pandemic, persons seemingly have enough time to do some of the things at least that they have planned. I have lost a lot of time during the pandemic to get at least some of the things that I wanted to get done. So yeah, I think I'd ask for some more time, a few more hours in the day.
I can identify with that.
Wow, yeah.
From my side, it can sound funny, but during this time, we realized that communicating with people at distance is one the thing that we are going to be needing a lot. And one of the challenges until now for us in Haiti is the internet connection. Like one of the things that I need most is a good internet connection wherever I am in the country, so I can keep keep my connections with everyone. So that's one of the most needed thing for now. And obviously, or I would say a stress regulator. I don't know what it is, but something like this. You know.
That is so profound. Rana.
Just if I could just add one thing as well. So every week to 2 weeks, we have an update by our Prime Minister and relevant members of the cabinet in terms of COVID and where we are as a country. And yesterday on the update, he was saying that from all research data and whatnot coming in, it's saying that this may be worst case scenario, a sort of 2 to 3 year outlook. And for me, there's lots of that discussions taking place around vaccines and where we are in terms of getting a vaccine and so forth. But these sorts of potential elongated journey that we may be on, because I think when the pandemic first started, our government, I think the initial projection was a sort of 6 to 9 months, and now it's extending and it's expanding. So the thought of this new normal potentially being our reality for quite a long time, that in itself, becomes a cause for concern. And there's just so much uncertainty around tomorrow. So I would say for me, I'd like to add, just what I would love is just like a concept of hope for a better tomorrow, because people are also dying daily because of this virus. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing. We have probably 2 minutes again. So Yolanda, Stephanie, Hannah, Kenan, Layla, anybody else wants to add in?
You don't have to.
No, I join everything we said about vacations. I think we all need like from the technology. It's like it's so needed right now. Like everything is so virtual, and in the end, we are like finding all the time new ways, which is great. So like I feel that's something that we need right now. It's to keep on finding new ways, not to get tired of the virtual world and type of improving it. Like Kenan's great background.
Oh, we lost Layla.
Okay.
And all these things out rooms like new, so we won't feel like the technology is overwhelming us.
Okay. Understood. Well, thank you everyone for sharing. I'm passing it back to Tova.
Thank you. So I will quickly take us through our last part, which is just sharing with you what is coming up next. And so one of the things that is not on this list, but we're going to have to decide about our next Caribbean regional call, the dates, as well as who's going to be presenting, but we're going to do that on the WhatsApp group. So we're not going to use our time right now to do that, but just to remind you that that is something that we need to schedule coming up. On November 8th, we're starting our World Leaders Learning opportunity. And this is for anybody, for you, if you have any committees, if you have people who are involved in Good Deeds Day, anybody can join this call. And we're on November 8th, we're going to be talking about the history of Good Deeds Day. We're going to talk about how to plan and be flexible for Good Deeds Day 2021. And we're also going to have a presentation on innovation during crisis. So I think it's going to be a great call. I encourage you all to join us. You're going to get, you got to save the date, but you'll get a more organized invitation in the next week. On December 6th, this is just to put on your calendar to have, we're going to have another world call. This time is going to be for all volunteers. So anybody and everybody who's been working so hard these last few months is invited to this call, an opportunity for us to celebrate all the hard work that's being done. And then January 10th, again, this is just for you to save the date, will be our next World Learning opportunity. We're going to talk about sponsorships. So that's just to give you kind of a visual of what's coming up next. Again, as I said, when it comes to the Caribbean Regional Calls, we had spoken about having one a month. So we will move that to our WhatsApp group and talk about it, but I'm already letting you know that we're going to be, if you haven't volunteered yourself, we're going to be volunteering you to present. So the Caribbean is a small group, so everybody's going to be presenting sooner rather than later. So just be prepared. Nobody in this group gets to get out of it, whether you're on the call right now or you're listening to the recording of this call. So too bad. You can either grow the Caribbean to more countries and have more people on the call, or that's it. That's our only options. So thank you, first of all, to Nicole, who unfortunately was dropped off the call, but hopefully we'll watch this later, and to Giselle and Giselle for the great presentation and the great insights. I encourage us to continue the conversation on the WhatsApp group, and because I know that for me, there are definitely thoughts and things that came up from listening to your presentation, and I'm sure they would be more than happy also if anybody would like to hear more in depth on how they can, what parts might be relevant to them to reach out. Thank you all for sharing in your small groups. I know ours was lovely, so I'm assuming the other one was lovely as well. Just giving an opportunity to connect more on a personal level. And thank you for being with us. We'll see you again next month. I mean, the fun part about the Caribbean is we meet once a month, so we'll see you soon. And in the meanwhile, stay safe and healthy, and you're welcome to unmute yourself and say goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.